In a quiet, scenic town nestled deep within the heart of America, an eerie change was sweeping through the community. It started subtly, with whispered conversations and sidelong glances exchanged among the townspeople. The unease grew as rumors spread like wildfire through the town, each whisper growing louder and more sinister. The townspeople had become convinced that obesity was the root of all their problems. They blamed the overweight for the economic downturn, the rise in healthcare costs, and even the perceived decline in the town's overall moral values. Soon, the obese residents found themselves ostracized, shunned, and subjected to cruel taunts and humiliation. The town's once close-knit community had been torn apart, divided by this irrational hatred. Those who were once friends now turned their backs on each other, and the obese residents found themselves isolated and terrified. They couldn't understand how their neighbors, friends, and even family members could harbor such intense animosity. As the tension reached its peak, a charismatic figure emerged from the chaos. A man named David, with a charismatic smile and persuasive words, took charge of the movement against the obese. He urged the townspeople to unite and take action against what he saw as a blight upon their town. One fateful night, as the moon hung heavy in the sky, David led a mob to the homes of the obese residents. The mob carried torches and pitchforks, their anger and fear having reached a fevered pitch. They surrounded the houses, shouting hateful slogans and demanding that the obese residents be banished from the town. Terrified and outnumbered, the obese residents had no choice but to leave their homes, leaving behind their possessions and their lives in the town they had called home for so long. The mob watched triumphantly as their victims were forced to flee into the night, homelessness and despair in their wake. But as the mob celebrated their victory, a sudden chill swept through the air, and a deafening silence fell upon the town. The moon, once bright and full, was suddenly obscured by a thick, dark cloud. The townspeople turned their attention to the sky, their faces contorted in confusion and fear. As the cloud passed, a horrifying truth was revealed. David, the charismatic leader of the anti-obesity movement, was no longer the man they had followed. He had transformed into a grotesque, bloated figure, more obese than anyone they had ever seen. His once charming smile had twisted into a grotesque, leering grin. The town's hatred and fear had manifested itself into something far more terrifying than they could have ever imagined. David, now a monstrous embodiment of their own prejudice and hatred, reached out with his massive arms and engulfed the mob that had once followed him. The town was left in stunned silence, the only sound the distant howling of the wind. The obese residents who had been driven away never returned, and the townspeople were left to grapple with the consequences of their own hatred and intolerance. And so, the town that had once thrived on unity and compassion had fallen victim to its own darkest fears, forever haunted by the night when they turned against the obese. They had learned a harsh lesson about the dangers of prejudice and the true horror that could arise from within their own hearts.